Hello everyone. First of all, apologies for uploading this lecture a little late. 2020 to 21 changes for FRM, both part 1 and part 2. I was down with COVID and the post-COVID symptoms and all. One thing I could probably recommend you is spirometer actually helps, and you have to give it time, and it will take that duration for you to heal. And I'm using spirometer, so it's helping me actually. Anyways, moving forward, so just a little quick recap. So October, the exams have been held in a very few locations. November, that is 2020. November 2020, again, barely I've seen some places the exams were held. In India, the exams was cancelled. January 21, India exams have taken place, but it hasn't taken place in a good number of cities, which has been all deferred to May. So May 2021 students are going to be also be impacted by the changes in the curriculum. Although there are minor changes in part 2 curriculum, part 1 curriculum has no changes as such. I'll come to that, but the testing pattern and everything. So anybody who's still not deferred the exam, you have to mail the institute and get yourself deferred to the month of May, or whatever issues you're facing. Mail the institute, follow up with them, and it shall be taken care of. Moving forward with respect to the changes 2020 to 2021. So first of all, I've already discussed outside India, January the exams, some cities exam has been postponed. In India, we did have the exams, although I know a lot of students unfortunately had to postpone the exam due to health issues of them for themselves or in the family. Now the new exam term. So let's actually start the discussion about the 21 onwards and changes. So first thing is that the exams are going to be changing to May, July and November. So we have a July option added for part 1. It is not added for part 2. So part 1 is going to be taking place twice a year, May, July and November, and part 2 is going to be taking place only in the month of May and November. Although even then, both May and July, the last date for registration is going to be 31st of January, and this is going to be 31st of July. I'm talking about the standard registration fee, early registration fee actually, then the standard registration fee increases post these dates. Obviously, it makes sense to register before the last date. So May and July, both the terms, FRM Part 1 exam is going to be taking place. Part 2 is going to be taking place in May and November or December. This year the date is December, and I believe it is going to be December only moving forward. So part 2, I'm expecting it to be conducted in the month of May and December only. When we're looking at the month of May or July, I see it, or November, it is going to be between the 10th and 20th of the month, and the exam will be open for 2 weeks window. So you can take the exam on any of the days within the 2 weeks, and you can schedule it accordingly. For the part 2 exams, this is the only month. This is the last paper-based exam. So for paper-based candidates, I don't need to discuss anything further because you already have the same instructions. There will be no change in your exam preparation strategy or your exam attempting strategy. I'm going to come to that. But this is the last paper-based exam for the part 2 curriculum. I'll come to the other details as we move forward. The next thing is, because of computer-based testing, what is going to be the impact of this in terms of your preparation, in terms of your examinations, etc. So when I'm looking at with preparation, there will be everything same as before, plus there will be a few things that needs to get added over here. One is, for example, when you're attempting the exam on a computer, in that case your reading speed online has to go up. So the way your focus level has to go up, because reading online and reading on a pen and paper, these are two different things. So this is going to require some change, which I'll discuss in details in another lecture. But the preparation exactly is going to be the same. There are minor changes. For example, when I'm going to practice, I'd rather not practice on hard copy, but I'm going to be practicing more online. So my habit of practicing online increases, and when I'm saying online, I do not mean on a tablet or a phone. Online means on a desktop or a laptop. You have to sit on your desk and then at your desk and then practice. Because it is important, because there is, again, see, understand, when I'm practicing on looking at the screen, I'm getting the question over there, but the rough work I have to do here, there has to be an eye coordination over there. Your speed reduces. Practice is important, and in the FRM exams, time management is a challenge. So therefore, practicing online is going to become important. So how to go about it and what all to do about it, I will come back to that later. But there is going to be a change. There is not a change in the strategy, the preparation. See, no matter what amount of nonsense anybody does with respect to, but ultimately the padhai, you have to study like a child. I've always maintained that. I see doing 2-minute, 3-minute lectures because the student's attention span is poor. You can't do all those things. You have to have, there is a flow, you have to build in that, you have to get in the study mode. So the studying cannot change, the preparation cannot change. A few things that we need to do additionally in order to manage with the computer-based examination part is what we need to do. Studying is concepts, understanding, being very thorough. All this, you know, I don't know what to call it, all this, I don't know what to term exactly. You know, these innovative technology is important to probably, you know, I'm able to move through different screens and all and have it saved, but technology should be used to an advantage and not a disadvantage. So I cannot, my lectures have to be long. You have to study for good long hours because you have to get into that studying mode. So please understand that the preparation is not going to change just because your exam is computer based, right? But you have to do a little bit of practice online. All those I'll tell you how. And you have to increase your reading speed online. So a few things additionally you'll have to work on, improve your focus and all. Other than that, there is no change in terms of preparation. So don't worry about it unnecessarily. Next question that I'm getting is with respect to the exam. So the level of difficulty is not going to change as such. The level of difficulty is not going to change because of computer-based testing. The problem will be with respect to reading speed. I told you about the eye coordination. So these things I'll tell you how to study, how to practice and how to attempt your paper. The attempting strategy will change. So those things you'll have to be very, very careful about. But other than that, the level of difficulty of the exam is not changing in terms of the questions, but it is going to change in terms of your time management issue because the exam is now computer based, right? The next thing is obviously the pass rate is not going to change. So you might be having these questions that, you know, people are attempting the exam between that 14-day window and the exam is now taking place for part 1 at least 3 times a year. So is that more students will attempt the exam or not? I get such weird questions that, you know, the entire May and November 2020 students are attempting in January 2020. So will the competition be too much? And therefore, should I switch my exam to the month of May? So don't put your brain so much into this kind of illogical analysis. Focus on your studies and your preparation. Analyze your curriculum, analyze your studies, your preparation part. Don't get into all this because the passing rate of the exams is going to be more or less the same. So even when you're testing them online, there is going to be a testing pattern. The institute has huge repository of understanding as to which subjects students have been attempting how many questions correctly. They have an idea, right? How many, because again, you see when you're looking at the part 1 results, we have around 40% pass percentage of the students, which is, we can say the top 40 percentile students pass, let's say. And in case of part 2, it increases to about 50% or so. Part 1 is 35, 38, 40% or so. So that is going to still be maintained. So don't worry about whether the difficulty level is going to increase or whether more students will pass or less students will pass, because even if the exam is thrice a year for part 1, those who want to study risk management, financial risk, finance and financial risk part, they will study. So don't get into all of that discussion because it is not going to have an impact. Because the exam is going to take place in July, therefore I will take up FRM is illogical. And the institute is not going to pass, like you will not have a 100% or 80% pass rate if you take the exam in May and a 20% in July or a 10% in November or something. All those things are not going to happen. So don't bother about all those things. So pass rates, don't worry, it is going to be more or less the same, the 3, 4, 5% deviation that generally happens. And the value of designation, just because it is going to be tested thrice a year or it is computer based, it is not going to matter. Most of the exams are computer based. In fact, I remember taking my CAIA exam, CIIB exam was computer based. I have taken a good number of computer-based exams as well. There are certain advantages in terms of the computer-based exams also. And number of people attempting will not change. I've already told you this part. There is a certain advantage when you're looking at the exam center, because what happens is earlier, say suppose small exam centers could not be opened up in different cities because you need a minimum number of candidates to have a testing center in that particular location. But because things have become computer based now, there is an advantage to the institute because there are Prometric and Pearson, there are different exam testing service providers who have 180 countries, they'll have 120, 180, God knows what number of testing centers across the world. So when they have these many testing centers, so even a testing center could accommodate only 10 students at a time, but it is over a 10-day window, a 14-day window. So say for example, earlier in a particular city, let's say it's a tier 2, tier 3 city and there are only 20 people taking the exam. For 20 people, you cannot conduct a physical examination, as in a paper pen based with the invigilator and all of that. So that was not possible. But now, even with 15 to 20 students in that particular tier 2, tier 3 city, there could be a Prometric or Pearson, whichever exam testing center is chosen. There could be a center in that city because GMAT exams are conducted in all online. So there could be an existing center which could be able to very easily conduct the FRM exams for you. So therefore, the number of centers is actually going to increase. And because there are not too many people on the same day taking the exam, therefore it is spread across 14 days. So, and it is more organized that way. So it's easier. Obviously things are going to change. Things are going to change in terms of, computer-based testing happened because of COVID. It acted as a trigger for that. But for example, even CFA exams was anyways going to turn computer-based over a 2-year gradually over a 2-year period. But because of COVID, it got triggered and it got immediately implemented for all the levels. So therefore, that is not something that is going to change the level of exam or all of that. So you don't have to worry about that part. In fact, the number of centers are going to be increasing and you'll be having more flexibility in terms of scheduling. Also, there is some rescheduling options. So suppose you schedule your exam for the 15th of May. One time you can change it to, let's say, 16th or 17th of May and all that. So a little bit of those changes and all are going to be allowed. There's another, actually I've posted some of the notes. So although I've not posted anything on YouTube as such, but I've been posting lectures for the students and in the groups and everything throughout this time period with respect, how to choose the exam date also, which exam date or center to choose and all that. Not center has to be based on your city, but the exam date and timing and all of those things, I've been guiding everything. So it's not that I've been absent for the last 2 months or so, but anyways. The other one bad news that I have for you is that the cost of the exams are going up, because anyways the FRM Institute was charging at a relatively, when you compare to the other exams, it had the cost had increased actually, the fees had increased actually over the last year or two. They had been gradually increasing the fees, but there is a significant hike suddenly over here. So the FRM exam is going to be costing you. So the registration fee is the same. So when you're registering with the institute, it is $400, but they are charging you $550 per exam. That is the early bird fees within 31st of January or 31st of July for the next term. But after that it becomes $750. So this 550 is I would say that there is a little sharp increase as compared to what it used to be. So there is a significant I could call it, or I could call it a steep increase. So the increase part, if you see, it is now $550 per level. So each level the exam, 400 is only one time fee payment, but 550 is every time you take the exam, part 1, part 2, 550. So the total course fee actually increases to $1,500 now. There's nothing to debate over it or nothing that we can do about it. Now let's come to something very important, that is your syllabus changes. So when I'm looking at the curriculum change, part 1 has got absolutely no change in terms of curriculum. Now a few things to note over here would be that part 1, the curriculum is not changing. It is possible that when we refer to Schweizer books when we do our classes, so Schweizer might be changing maybe a paragraph here and there, or maybe an example here and there. But the problem that I have seen over the last years with my experience is that the exams, the syllabus over the entire 2020 or over the entire 2021 is the same. During the year there is no change. But what I've seen is that the books are always released at a much later date. So therefore, I've always suggested students, suppose if you're going to take the exam in 21, you buy the 2020 books. Obviously, it is for the May term and all. If you're starting your preparation before January, because the books are generally released maybe at in the middle of February and all. In 2020 already, the institute made too many changes in the curriculum from 19 to 20. So the books were even more delayed. They almost released in the month of February and March and all. So that is a little bit of a challenge. So that is why my suggestion is 2020, you buy the 2020 version and you start studying. If you want, you can wait for the 2020. No, I don't suggest that. And if there's any change in the 2020 and 21, an example here or there has changed, then I'll inform that these little bit of here and there changes have happened. My expectation is not even 0.5% change is going to happen with respect to the textbooks also, because a lot of students have anyways deferred the exam. So there is not too much of change that can be done. Curriculum wise, content wise, there is zero change. As I told you, maybe one paragraph might be reworded, or maybe one example might be changed or something. That is the maximum that is possible with the part 1 curriculum. So it does not impact you. Even then, once the books are released, I'll tell you what all changes have happened. With respect to the institute material also, there is not going to be any changes that is expected in part 1 curriculum, and we refer to more of Schweizer, and institute material is only for practice. So now I don't recommend people buying the hard copy of institute material, because when you enroll with the institute, you already have the access to online institute ebooks, institute's material. So you rather practice it online because it's now computer based. So we need to practice more online rather than on pen and paper. These things I'll cover later in more detail. I'm just telling you the changes that are happening. So there is no change in terms of part 1 curriculum. When I'm looking at the part 2 curriculum, we have 5 subjects now. Liquidity risk was introduced, actually 6 now actually. Liquidity risk was introduced last year. And it's quite relevant and important given that we have seen the 2008 crisis and what happened and how things transpired. So liquidity risk is actually important. In these subjects, there is no change in market risk, operational risk or liquidity risk. The subjects are ditto. Investment risk also, I barely feel a paragraph would have changed in one of the chapters, performance evaluation. In credit risk, there are changes in 7 chapters, but again, I believe maximum 3, 4, 5% or maybe 1 paragraph per chapter has changed. So there is barely any change. There is no change according to me in this. Only once the 2021 curriculum books are released, we will be able to talk about the credit risk and investment risk, what change has happened. I'll not be able to comment now. In current issues, it is a norm with FRM Institute that every year the current issues subject will see few chapters deleted and few chapters added. And that is on a yearly basis. I'll just show you something, just a second. So now when you're looking at the credit risk, as I told you, market risk, there are no changes. In credit risk, these chapters have certain amount of changes. My suggestion, you study the chapters as it is, and whatever minor changes that are there will be informed only after the books have been released. It's not possible to do that, obviously, before that. So you don't have to worry. If you still have a problem, you can skip these chapters for now and study the remaining chapters. I'm also going to be releasing a new order of study for FRM Part 2 based on the changes, so that it is not a problem for the students. Operational risk, nothing has changed. When you're looking at the risk management, investment management, only portfolio performance evaluation, 1 chapter, where is it? Portfolio performance evaluation has, and I doubt if there will be more than a paragraph change or something. So we'll see once the books are released. There is a major change when you're looking at current issues, which is always the case. So when you're looking at deletions, there are 7 chapters that have been deleted. Obviously, you won't have to study these 7 chapters. You can skip these 7. This is the institute's PDF. I have nothing to do with the exam setting, exam correction with the institute. I'm an independent person teaching, so don't misconstrue anything. There is no connection. There is no that I know more about the institute or anything. Okay, so there is no privacy and all of those any violation and all over there. So these 7 chapters have been deleted. These 7 have been added. I don't want to talk about the deleted chapter. There is a Bitcoin chapter, blockchain chapter that is deleted. Climate change has changed actually. There is a climate change chapter, which is now this one, climate change, physical risk and equity. This is a new chapter. Addition, there is a very interesting one, COVID-19. They've already added a chapter over here with the financial stability report, markets in the time of COVID-19. This is going to be very interesting to study and teach. AML cyber resilience measure was already there in operational risk chapter. There's been one more chapter added, which is actually very relevant right now. Cyber risk is something we have been focusing with the curriculum over the last couple of years. And disruption in debt market and a few more chapters have been added. These 7 chapters will be covered at the end. Current issues is something you need to study at the end. So once you complete your entire market risk, you complete your investment risk, your operational risk also, credit risk partially, let's say, for those who are very skeptical. Otherwise, it will not be a problem. You study exactly as it is, the way you've been studying 2020 curriculum, except ignore the 7 chapters deleted in current issues, and these new 7 chapters you'll have to wait for me to complete in the class and send you across the lectures. So this is the change in terms of curriculum. So the only thing is current issues avoid 7 chapters, and the new 7 chapters wait. They are disconnected from the other chapters, so that will be covered at the end. The next thing we need to do is lecture-wise changes. So basically there's an introduction lecture. There's a first class for be it CFA or FRM or CA or whatever I teach. The first class I try to give an overview of everything to the students. The syllabus is the same. There is no change as such. the introduction class, as I call it. So overview and exams lecture I will change and I'll upload. I'm just getting into the mode of doing regular lectures now. I'm almost there, almost 70% of my pre-COVID productivity now. So these 2 lectures are going to be changed and uploaded. The rest of the lectures are going to be the same, the syllabus, the scope, that will not change. And with respect to the exam mentoring, so to all my students, this is for YouTube actually, and it is important. Obviously, all the students have to attend this lecture. The students get an exam mentoring folder. In that, I have posted the lecture, how to study and practice. This will change. Even if you've attended the previous lecture, it is fine. There is no problem. The only additions that you have to do, the preparation, the padhai, the studying cannot change. You have to be a student and study, irrespective of whatever designation you hold and whatever number of experience you have. I'm still studying and I have to study a lot. I have to study for the lifetime now, because the kind of generation we are in, we have to study for our lifetimes. And you will only grow and you'll only keep on doing well if you always behave like yourself like a student. I behave like I sit in the morning, I'm studying on my table and I'm marking and underlining. I love stationery, not the expensive ones, I don't like that, but you know, the red pen and the blue pen, and also I like my stationery and I study in all that way. So how to study and practice lecture, I've already sent the change and strategy lecture to the students based on computer based testing. This is already sent. So basically, how to study and practice lecture is 2021 that you have. The change and strategy lecture is something, it's an audio note, it's a long audio, a mentor note that I have posted and I have given to all the students. I am going to club these 2 together and create a new how to study and practice lecture. This I'm going to do it in the coming week and I'm going to be sending it to all my students. How to attempt lecture is exceptionally important. This lecture is the most important across all levels, because all the mistakes, all the issues students face in the exam time, during the exam, how they need to attempt their exam paper, how they need to strategize in order to attempting the paper, the time management part, extremely important, especially for FRM students, both the parts 1 and 2. So this is going to totally change when you're looking at the computer based testing. For FRM Part 2, May 2021, since it's paper-based, your lecture remains the same, but this is going to change for the computer-based testing. So this will be provided to you 1 month before the exam. I'm also waiting for the institute to release any software demo or something like that. Once I get that, I'm going to be preparing this one because I need more information on that. But the institute has not changed. So you have a 4-hour exam. You have 100 MCQ in Part 1 and 80 MCQ in Part 2. Instead of just giving it on paper and pen, it is going to be online. That is the only change that is happening. In fact, I will make the access for CFA exam software demo available to FRM students also till the time I get a FRM exam demo, in case somebody is very curious and wants to. Otherwise, don't bother, you'll get it before the exam happens. And this you already have. The previous lecture of how to study and practice and the change in strategies is very important. I always ask my students that after you have covered 2-3 chapters with me, 2-3 readings, time value of money and a couple of more, then you should watch this. So you know how to study. It is very important to have the correct way of method of studying. Absolutely, without the ego, as a student you have to study. I'm not strict that way. I cannot be strict but in my way I'm very strict. You have to study like a student and I have to be a teacher when I'm teaching you guys. So I don't want any of those, I don't like the fancy things that people do. I like to study traditionally because Dimag is traditional. You have to, be very attentive, concept, focus. Those things have to be there to crack the exam. All this fancy stuff does not work. So be very careful about it. Of course, use technology and all that. I saw a student making those beautiful notes on a tab or something and sent to me. Love that. So this is more or less, so this is this, and of course the chapters that are new or the paragraphs that are new or the concepts that are new, whatever it is going to be, once we do it in the live classes, we are going to be sending it across to all the students across the globe. I mean all the students, all the registered students that we have, we send everything. So that is never a challenge, that is never a problem. The next thing is, can we do both the levels together? Yes, you can. You can attempt both the levels together. In fact, it would be easier. You can schedule a part 1 exam on the 10th of May, let's say, and part 2 on the 20th of May. So that's something, a major advantage that we have over here because of the testing window, with the flexibility also over the this thing. But my personal opinion, I've already I have these answers put in my app also. I'll give you the details and all. For those who are not registered, they'll probably find it a little difficult. I'll give you the contacts and all of that later. But I have an answer that should we attend part 1 and part 2 together or not. So I have these answers put in my app. So you can just go through that. Now the app is also available on iOS. So you've got Android, iOS and all of that. And I'll just send you the link and all that. I'll just mention that at the end. So that's, but my suggestion, part 1, part 2 together is a little too much. So I'm not sure. I had taken it myself. I'm not discouraging. Of course, you can absolutely easily do it yourself. You'll have to work that hard. So you have to be cognizant. You have to be aware of all the details. And but it's easier than before because you get a 10-day gap in between part 1 and part 2. Obviously, if you don't clear part 1, part 2 exam ka result also you're not gonna get. So don't. So that is the same. I'm not sure about if you take a part 1 exam in July, can you attempt part 2 in December? With this early bird registration, $550, definitely you can't, because your result will not be out, and last date for part 1 exam, part 2 exam registration would be 31st of July. But even in the late this thing, standard fee with $750, can you take part 2 in December or not? I'm not very sure about it. We'll have to wait for the institutes to answer that question. Software demo is pending, as I told you. I'll just give access to all the FRM students for the CFA software demo in case they're too curious, as I told you. But otherwise, once your demo is out online, I'll make a lecture on that and send it to you separately. There are more testing locations. I've already told you about it. Results are going to be relatively faster. I would not expect the results to be too fast or too early this particular year 2021, but moving forward, I think the results, instead of earlier we used to have make exam July 1st week, so around 6 weeks time. Now I expect it to go down to at least to a max of 4 weeks time frame. But I think it'll be 4 weeks, and 4 weeks you'll have to count, I believe, from the last day of the window. So the exam is taking between 10th and 24th of May. So 24th May onwards, 1 month you have to take. So 24th June, let's say the results should ideally be out instead of, let's say, the first week of July, generally the 1st or the 4th of July or something. So this is more or less about it. I think I've tried to cover everything possible, and the how to attend lecture will be updated 1 month before your exams and will be provided to you. I inform everybody anyways through the WhatsApp groups. And the how to study and practice, if you've seen the how to study and practice lecture of 2020 and the change in strategy, it's fine. You don't have to do the new lecture. Otherwise, I'll combine the two together and I'll do the lecture, and I'm going to be uploading that in the next couple of weeks, in the next week itself, not even a couple of weeks. And for the students who do not have these details, it's very simple. So this is the app on Android and the iOS platform, and just Google this up and you'll get all the details. And in the lecture description, I'm going to be posting this on YouTube. So in the description below, you will find all the numbers and all of that here. Just check from there. Actually, this is also there. I shouldn't have written. Anyways, hope this is helpful and you have an idea about 2020 and 21 changes and all that. And just study hard, nothing else. Don't bother about so much that what is going to happen, how is it going to change, and why is it happening in my time only and all that, because this I've already told, that don't do the self-pity thing and all and waste your time on that. I've told the students multiple times in all the groups and all that, and the monthly note also that I sent to you guys in January 1st, I had sent you a monthly note, because ultimately it's a percentile thing. So again, the EQ part is also going to be very important when you guys are tackling. I know everybody is suffering and tackling a lot of things in 2020 and 21. I'm talking a little fast now. So I know a lot of you guys are facing a lot of challenges, and so is everybody around. But it is going to be a percentile thing. How do you react to it? Instead of saying that why is it deferred, I took 1.5 years to study, my entire plan is disrupted, you crib about it. Your EQ is very important. Everybody is facing those challenges. So out of all those people, how do you react to all these things, to these EQ and to these challenges? And how firmly and strongly, whatever happened, it's at least I'm alive, I'm doing fine, I'm able to take the exam, and also it's great, let me take the exam. And I'm hoping, I've been guiding my students all throughout this last 1 year. I hope you people have read, learned, and become better versions of yourselves over the last 1 year. At least I know my capabilities or resilience, I think it would have increased. I've done a lot of reading. So you have to see how you're going about those things. So anyways, that I keep on, that you are anyways updated with. So I'll not add more to that. But yeah, react well. Your EQ is also very important when you're taking the exam, especially this year. for those students who have been deferring from the last year or dealing with the uncertainty and all. So it's a percentile thing. The top 35, 40, 45% percentage of students, percentile people are going to be passing the exam. So it's how you approach also that matters. Everybody is facing the same hardships. Somebody could be a little more, somebody could be facing a little less, right? So don't worry, just work on yourself, work hard, and you're going to be doing amazing. So, yeah.